Hi, and welcome to Unblock 2022, a conference organized by Buildkite. I had the pleasure to be invited last year to talk about Graviton2, and I have the pleasure again to be invited this year to give you a primer on AWS Graviton3 processor. I'm Arthur Petitpierre, a principal SAE at AWS, focusing on Graviton processor. My role here is to help customers to understand what Graviton is all about and the best practices on how to adopt them and get the best performance out of them. So you might have heard myself talking last year about Graviton processor. And last year, we were still using the second generation of Graviton processor. At reInvent last year, we have announced the Graviton3 processor, and later this year, we have released them as generally available. So we are now using the third generation of Graviton processors, the Graviton3. All those processors are custom AWS silicon using the ARM64 architecture, and they're targetedly optimized to run cloud workloads. Building our own processor is a way for AWS to rapidly innovate, build, and iterate on behalf of our customers. Graviton 3 is now powering a first generation of EC2 instances, the C7G. The processor itself is offering up to 25% better performance when you compare it to our previous generation of Graviton processor, the Graviton2. And for some specific workloads, it would allow you to get even better performance than that. For example, for applications that are highly demanding with floating point performance, you can get up to twice the performance that you were getting with Graviton 2. For cryptographic workload performance, things like TLS session initialization, you can get up to twice the cryptographic performance. And finally, for machine learning performance, you can get up to 3 times better performance compared to Graviton 2. The Graviton 3 processor and the instances that are powered with it are also the first ones in the cloud to use DDR5 memory. DDR5 memory is offering 50% more bandwidth and consume a lot less energy. With a faster processor and a memory that consumes less, the Graviton 3 based instances are the most energy efficient in our portfolio, and they are 60% more efficient than comparable EC2 instances. C7G, as we are today, offer the best price performance for compute-intensive workloads on AWS. So let's have a quick look at what we changed between the Graviton 2 and the Graviton 3 processors. We significantly increased the floating point throughput by doubling the number of vector units. So you can see 2 SIMD units on the Graviton 2. We now have 4 units with a width of 128 bits on the Graviton 3, and they're exposed either with the Neon instruction set or the SV instruction set, exposing 2 256-bit registers. We also doubled the number of load and store units to get a faster memory access. We doubled the number of multiplication unit, and that's what gives you the better cryptographic performance. And we have also added a couple new enhancements, like pointer authentication that allows you to build better application from a security standpoint. And we also added support for a hardware random number generator. From a sustainability standpoint, AWS Graviton 2 was already incredible. It's a super power efficient processor, giving up to 3.5 times better performance per watt compared to similar EC2 instances. Its lower power allows us to put them in higher density racks, which allows us to lower the cost and lower the carbon footprint. With Graviton 3, we are now doing even better, 60% more energy efficient. And for you to be able to measure the impact of using those instances, we have built a sustainability pillar in the AWS well-architected framework and released a tool, the customer carbon footprint tool, that allows you to measure your carbon footprint on AWS. Now let's see a couple feedback from customers on the Graviton3 processor. Twitter has been testing the Graviton3 based instances, and they have seen that they deliver 20 to 80% better performance compared to Graviton2 for their workloads. Honeycomb.io, and a company building an observability framework, they were able to run 30% fewer instances with C7G compared to C6G, a Graviton2 based instance, to serve the same workload with 30% reduced latency. Epic Game, they have migrated a huge game engine using low-level languages, and they are now able, with Graviton3, to run even their most latency demanding types of workload. And finally, Formula One, they're doing CFD simulation on Graviton-based instances, and they have found that Graviton3 allows them to run 40% faster compared to the previous generation. What does it mean when you want to use them with Buildkite? The Buildkite agent fully supports Graviton processor and the ARM64 architecture. So you can use it to build your ARM64 version of your softwares. Buildkite Elastic CI Stack for AWS is a really convenient way for you to build an auto-scaling Buildkite CI cluster. It runs on Graviton. And finally, Graviton3 processors are 25% faster compared to the previous generation of Graviton processors. They offer the best price performance for AWS EC2 workloads running on AWS. So I definitely invite you to test those processors and to run your builds with Buildkite on those processors for a better performance and a lower cost. Thanks a lot for attending this session. If you have any question about Graviton, any question about running Buildkite on Graviton, feel free to contact me. There's my email here. You can also reach out to me on Twitter. Thanks a lot, and have a nice conference.